A city looks permanent when you stand inside it, but it is a moving system. Its streets, towers, water pipes, and power lines are not a backdrop. They are a metabolism. Every day, a modern city pulls in energy, food, water, cement, steel, and data. Every day, it pushes out heat, waste, exhaust, sewage, and discarded material. For most of human history, this pattern was limited by distance and scale. Cities could only grow as far as their nearby land and rivers could support them. Modern infrastructure broke that limit. Electricity made density possible. Refrigeration made distance irrelevant. Trucks and shipping made supply chains feel infinite. The result is the default city of the 20th and early 21st century, a place that consumes far more than it produces. If you trace the footprint of an average large city, the boundary on a map is misleading. The true city extends outward as farmland, mines, dams, refineries, transmission corridors, ports, and landfills. The true city is a network that reaches into deserts for minerals, into oceans for shipping lanes, into mountains for reservoirs, and into distant industrial zones for manufactured components. This is why cities are not just population centers. They are resource systems. A self-sustaining city is not a utopia and not a slogan. It is an engineering question. It asks whether a dense population center can reduce its dependence on distant extraction by changing how it generates energy, how it uses water, how it produces food, and how it recovers materials. It asks whether the city can be redesigned to behave less like a consumer and more like a producer, not by isolating itself from the world, but by closing loops where the physics and economics allow it. The first constraint is energy. Cities concentrate demand. Lights, elevators, trains, servers, pumps, heating, cooling, and industrial processes all pull power in real time. In most countries, urban electricity demand is met by large generation plants connected through transmission networks built for a previous era. Those grids were optimized for central power stations, pushing electricity outward along predictable routes. The self-sustaining city model starts by reversing the logic. Instead of importing most energy from far away, the city becomes a distributed energy field. The distributed energy field takes shape at the scale of roofs, blocks, feeders. A city becomes a mesh of small power plants that cooperate. Rooftop photovoltaics convert sunlight into direct current. Smart inverters synchronize to the local grid. They regulate voltage and provide reactive power support. Batteries in basements, garages absorb midday surplus and return it in the evening. Each building is a node with generation, storage, and controls. Community solar extends this pattern. Arrays on schools' warehouses, brownfields parking canopies feed medium voltage lines. Subscribers take a share of the output through meters and billing, not through private wires. The benefit is distributed even when the panels are not. Microturbines add firm power and heat. Small gas or biogas units run in hospitals, campuses, industrial sites. Their waste heat drives absorption chillers or warms water, raising total efficiency. They modulate output to follow demand when clouds pass or when the evening peak arrives. Microgrids interconnect these assets. At the feeder level, a controller watches power quality, frequency, and load. It dispatches batteries, sets inverter modes, and curtails exports when circuits approach their limits. Protection devices coordinate so that faults are isolated without taking down an entire neighborhood. Islanding is the resilience function. When the upstream grid fails, switches open in milliseconds. Grid-forming inverters establish a local reference. Loads shed in prioritized tiers. Critical services continue on stored energy solar and on-site turbines. When the utility returns, the microgrid resynchronizes and recloses without a hard restart. Peer-to-peer trading operates on top of this control layer. Smart meters record time-stamped flows. A local market clears offers from producers and bids from neighbors, with prices that vary by feeder constraints and time. One roof exports at noon. Another household buys that energy instead of drawing from a distant plant. Settlement happens in software. Electrons take the shortest path. Reliability emerges from redundancy and coordination. Multiple sources reduce single points of failure. Storage smooths ramps and buffers outages. Grid support functions. Voltage ride-through frequency droop and synthetic inertia. Stabilize local circuits during disturbances. Cybersecurity and authenticated control traffic prevent unauthorized switching. At city scale, many microgrids link through ringed medium voltage networks and utility interfaces. They can operate independently when stressed and interdependently when stable. The result is a power system that is closer to its loads, faster in response, and less exposed to distant disruptions. The city begins to produce a significant share of the energy it uses, not as a single plant, but as a coordinated field of small ones. In the mesh of microgrids, storage is the hinge between timing and need. Lithium-ion does the fast work. Containerized racks take the midday crest and return it at dusk. Millisecond response steadies frequency, trims ramps, cushions faults. For short durations, minutes to a few hours, nothing moves as quickly or as compactly. Flow batteries extend the night. Tanks of electrolyte hold energy like a reservoir. Power from the stacks, capacity from volume. Heavier, slower, often larger. Tolerant of deep cycles and long discharge. At substations and brownfields, they carry late peaks and storm watches. Thermal storage shifts heat instead of electrons. Ice tanks build cold at night. Chilled water loops feed offices at noon. In winter, hot water and phase change vaults store surplus as comfort. District systems stretch that effect across blocks. The meter sees less peak. Occupants feel the same temperature. Vehicles join as mobile batteries. Managed charging soaks up solar at midday. Bidirectional depots. Buses give back, fleets give back. They return energy in the evening, unplug at dawn, ready to roll. The grid doesn't see a rush of chargers. It sees a coordinated fleet responding to price and constraint. On the demand side, flexibility is its own resource. HVAC pre-cools before the spike. Water heaters stagger cycles. Refrigeration staggers cycles. Pumps throttle. Chargers throttle. Data halls throttle. Signals arrive from feeder controllers or markets. Assent here, a constraint there. Loads listen. Loads act. Loads get paid. The peak flattens, capacity stretches without laying a new wire. Sighting and safety make this real. Batteries set back from walls and sidewalks. Ventilation systems in battery rooms. Gas detection alarms. Clean, neat cable runs. Fire barriers in place. Clear aisles for access, training for first responders, no equipment in flood paths, noise kept below the street's hum, apartment and garage packs in rated enclosures with supervised charging, public sites, simple signage, controlled access, authenticated controls. Together, storage and shape turn a variable city into a steady one. The microgrid controller doesn't just dispatch power, it choreographs time. A sharp evening peak becomes a slow swell. Waste at noon becomes warmth at night. Resilience stops being an exception. It becomes the daily rhythm. The city breathes through its buildings. The city breathes through its buildings. Efficiency starts before a single wire. At form skin sun. Passive design sets the baseline. Orient mass to catch winter light and avoid summer glare. Shade the high angles. Stack spaces so heat rises to where it's welcome. Let atriums pull daylight deep so lights switch on late and turn off early. The envelope holds the gains. Continuous insulation wraps corners and edges so heat can't leak through steel and concrete. Airtight layers stop drafts. Balanced ventilation brings fresh air on purpose. High-performance glazing does two jobs at once. Triple panes, tight frames, spectrally selective coatings. Admit light, reject unwanted heat, and keep interior glass warm to the touch. Heating and cooling shift from combustion to physics. Heat pumps move energy instead of making it. Ground loops sip steady temperatures. Air source units modulate quietly, scaling up on cold mornings and coasting through mild afternoons. Heat recovery systems scavenge warmth from exhaust and chill from return water, wringing value from every degree. Controls make it coherent. Sensors learn occupancy and daylight. Set points drift when rooms are empty. Ventilation follows people, not schedules. With the microgrid signal, buildings preheat, pre-cool, and pause, turning comfort bands into a resource without calling attention to themselves. New builds can aim for near zero from day one. Compact forms, high R values, tightness verified ducts inside the envelope, all electric from the start. Retrofits work in layers. Start with air sealing and insulation. Add window upgrades or inserts that boost performance without replacing frames. Electrify heat with right-sized pumps. Commission the controls. Each step cuts load. Together they transform a building without erasing its bones. Embodied carbon sets the floor for impact. Reuse beats rebuild. Keeping structure saves the emissions already spent. When you must add, choose low-carbon concrete recycled steel mass timber where it fits. Pick insulation with lower upfront footprint, balanced against decades of savings. Time matters. Emissions avoided today cool the century ahead. Efficient buildings lighten the grid's lift. They need less flex more and last longer. In the city's metabolism, they are organs tuned to the beat, quiet, enduring, and ready to harmonize with the power that surrounds them. Heat doesn't vanish, it drifts. We learn to catch it. At city scale, pipes become arteries. Low-temperature networks move warmth and cool where it's needed. Block by block, season by season. Waste heat first. Data centers, supermarkets, ice rinks, factories, the subway. Heat recovery chillers lift those degrees to useful levels. What once vented as steam becomes hot water that keeps a wing of homes alive through January. Ground becomes our battery. Borehole fields. Aquifers store summer's surplus for winter, and winter's cold for summer. Geothermal loops sip steady earth temperatures, trimming peaks, stretching efficiency. By the water's edge, the city breathes with the harbor. Seawater cooling feeds plate exchangers. In shoulder seasons, free cooling glides through buildings without compressors, just pumps and valves. The network is fourth and fifth generation. Lower temperatures, higher efficiency. Twinned insulated mains under the street. Building interface stations the size of a closet. Heat exchangers, smart meters, no flames, no flues. Each building takes what it needs, returns what it can. Control rooms hum quietly. SCADA watches flows and deltas. Leak detection listens. Algorithms stack sources. Waste heat first, ground next, boilers last, and rarely. On cold mornings, preheat the district. On bright afternoons, absorb cooling from shaded cores. The microgrid signal threads through. Pumps shift. Temperature set points glide. Storage charges. Storage empties on cue. Scale brings equity and resilience. One efficient plant replaces thousands of chimneys. Hospitals, schools, shelters connect to loops that ride out fuel swings and storm nights. Maintenance is centralized. Air is cleaner at the curb. Pipes are patient infrastructure, laid once, serving decades. As new heat appears, more data halls, more transit, upgraded industry, the network plugs it in. Carbon falls not building by building, but street by street. District heating and cooling make waste useful, the ground a partner, the sea a quiet ally. Efficiency becomes a shared project, steady, invisible, and citywide. The city drinks slowly. From the hills, mirrors of sky, reservoirs held by earth, held by concrete evaporation kept in check. Intakes quiet, gates steady. Floating solar shades the surface, makes power as it saves water. At the edge of salt and shore, we turn the sea gentle. Desalination hums behind walls, pre-filters membranes pressure that sifts fresh from brine. Powered by the sun when it's high, by wind when it's strong. Brine returned, diffused, mixed, monitored. Storm days become bank days. Rainy streets in slow motion swell the drains. Detention first, spreading basins. Water settles seeps. Injection wells push surplus back to aquifers' underground banks for dry months ahead. Treatment plants breathe in pulses. Basins ripple coagulation, settling filtration light. Chlorine ozone. Another train runs purple. Recycled water, polished for parks, cooling towers. Street trees, construction dust. Every non-potable need taken off the drinking line. Pipes are the quiet network. Trunk mains, branches, service lines. District metered areas watch their sums. Pressure zones step the city's rise valves and pumps staging head. So taps don't scream and mains don't burst. Nights fall, pressures ease to save water, to spare joints. Leak detection listens. Correlators hear whispers through iron. Smart meters flag the 2 a.m. trickles. Acoustic logs walk the grid in the dark. Small fixes prevent big floods. Gallons saved become supply. Aquifers, reservoirs, the sea. The sky sources braided, not single-threaded. The microgrid signal threads through here too. Pumps ramp with cheap, clean power. Desal shifts to windy hours. Recharge waits for the storm's peak. Storage is not just tanks, soil, stone. Equity rides in every drop delivered. Reliable pressure to upper floors. Cool parks watered on the hottest block. Fire hydrants that answer every turn. Water, like heat, circulates. We learn to keep it close, use it twice, return it wiser. The city drinks slowly and wastes less with every season. The city listens to rain. Clouds pass slow. A gray lid lowers. First drops stitch the skyline to the street. Roofs go green. Thin soils, sedum grasses. They drink the first flush. They cool the hot deck. They slip water to drains on their own time. Along the curb, bioswales take the curb's old job and do it softer. Roots braid the soil. Sand, compost, gravel. Layers stack like filters. Litter caught at the lip. Oils held in the top inch. Flow slows. Clarity rises. Pavement that sips. Permeable brick. Porous asphalt. Concrete with quiet voids. Storm by storm they breathe in. Then exhale to the subbase, to stone galleries that store and spread. Vacs and sweepers keep the pores clear. Maintenance is the membrane. Detention becomes design. Schoolyards that sink and play again by afternoon. Parks rimmed with gentle berms. Under street vaults catching the midday cloudburst. The city holds its breath and lets it out as the river allows. Outfalls watch the tide. One-way gates, backflow valves. Salt kept where salt belongs. Sensors feel the surge. Forecasts shift gates before the squall line hits. We step back from rivers. Setback levees. Bought-out blocks become meadow. Floodplains restored as rooms for water. Places to be wet on purpose. Wetlands stitched to creeks. Tidal marshes take the slap out of storms. Risk drops when speed drops. Less depth, less damage. Basements spared. Insurance falls quiet. Averted costs sit invisible but real. Water quality lifts with every slowed gutter. Fewer combined overflows. Fewer slicks. The bay tastes the difference. Heat drops too. Trees. Green roofs shave the peak. Shaded sidewalks. Cooler nights. Co-benefits stack like layers in a swale. Equity is drainage, not just pipes. Safe crossings in the downpour. Dry entries for ground floor homes. Parks that hold water on the blocks that flood first. Maps learn the new storms. Cloudburst lines redraw design storms. Standards ratchet. Crews walk the grid after every rain. Small cleanings prevent big failures. The signal threads through here too. Pumps wait for the low-price wind. Smart weirs step their heights. We move water with patience and timing. Overcast skies. Slow Steadicam down a green street. Drops ring a bioswale. A river outfall rests between tides. The city learns to slow rain. To keep it close. To give it room. We waste less water. We fear it less. Sun comes through glass. A greenhouse breathes. Condensation beads, slides, falls back to roots, closed loops, sip, not spill. Drip lines tick like clocks, rooftops turn to fields, shallow beds, compost rising from last year's peelings. Bees commute between chimneys, aerials of green grids above brick and tar. Vertical farms glow faintly, a second sunrise. LEDs tuned to leaf and fruit. Watts become calories. Waste heat warms the building next door. CO2 from a boiler becomes plant sugar. Water cycles, fog, film, drip, used again and again. Community gardens open their gates at first light. Hands in soil, seed packets swapped, beds labeled in many languages, shade cloth, rain barrels, a barrel worm bin humming, a hose sputters, then a watering can finishes the sentence. Trade-offs counted. Lights pull power when wind is strong, when price is low. Chillers glide at night. Batteries catch the lull. In drought, closed-loop hydroponics stretch each liter. In cold snaps, greenhouses choose which beds to heat, which to rest. Logistics move quiet. Dawn trucks ease to a curb. Crates of lettuce, basil, strawberries still cool from the night. E-bikes thread alleys with herb boxes strapped. Cold chain as narrow as a neighborhood. A mile becomes minutes, not hours. Markets pop under awnings. CSA bins lined up like small promises. Kitchens adjust menus to what ripened. Waste funnels back, stems to compost, compost to soil, soil to new stems. Aquaponics knit fish to greens. Loop inside loop. Access is part of yield. Beds on blocks that lack supermarkets. Herbs at clinic doors. School plots that teach weather and patience. Fences low, gates unlocked. Food safety and dignity in the same row. We plan for storms here too. Low trays lifted, roof drains cleared, water stored for dry spells. When it pours, cisterns drink. When it bakes, shade nets stretch. The city's metabolism tastes fresher. Shorter trips, fewer losses, more resilience per square foot. Slow pans of sunlit leaves. A knife snips a stem. Dew flickers. Forklifts hum on rubber tires. A loading dock yawns and closes. Breakfast begins within sight of where it grew. Blue, green, black. Lids lift. A pause before a toss. Source separation starts with a choice. Labels help. Pictures help more. Fewer guesses, fewer losses. A truck exhales at dawn. Tipping floor yawns, piles settle like dunes. Soft light. Dust motes hang. A grapple hand feeds the line. Belts wake. Slow. Steady. Screens turn. Lifting cardboard. Letting bottles fall. Stars and fins sort by shape. Glass drops to its own path. Clink, clink. Air knives whisper. Plastics hop when the sensor sees a wavelength. Jets tap them sideways. Eddy currents flick aluminum like leaves. Magnets pull steel in clean arcs. A quiet magic. Metals found without hands. Paper becomes rivers. OCC moves like brown sails. Newsprint drifts. When it's dry, it's value. When it's wet, it's weight. Food on paper is noise. Noise becomes waste. Contamination lowers the song. Bales stack. Tight cubes. OCC, mixed paper. PET, blue. HDPE, natural. Aluminum, bright. Steel, dark. Glass cleaned, sized, amber. Glass flint. Glass green. Each with a market. Each with a door back into the economy. Another hall, construction and demolition. Concrete crunches under jaws. Rebar sings as magnets lifted in steel vines. Wood sorted from drywall. Gypsum dust tame under mist. Bricks saved whole when they can be. Rubble graded to new roadbed. Weight moves by habit. Sorting teaches it to go elsewhere. Still tanglers snag gears. Bags, hoses, cords, a rogue propane tank, a bowling ball. Wish cycling costs time, costs blades. A banana smear on a bale becomes a truck turned away miles from here. Workers in bright vests read the stream like weather. Pull what machines miss. Leave what machines prefer. Pace is slow on purpose. Fewer mistakes. Fewer aches. Meters count purity. Contracts count purity. 0.1% decides a route. Education cuts that number. Clear bins, clear rules, right-sized lids, fewer SKUs for packaging. The system breathes easier. Forklifts hum, bale wire twangs, doors roll up tonight, loads head to mills, smelters, furnaces. Energy saved by remelt is heat not burned elsewhere. Loops tighten, residue shrinks. Lingering shot. A magnet lifts, releases. Clatter softens to silence. The belt keeps moving. The city sorts itself one decision at a time. Dawn finds round tanks holding their breath. Domes rise a finger's width, then rest. Sunrise over tanks. Food scraps. Yard trimmings. A thin river of grease. Depackagers sigh. Forks fall away. Foil falls away. A slurry slips into warm steel. No oxygen here. Microbes eat in the dark. Bubbles lift. Biogas gathers like weather. Pipes whisper. Knockouts tap. Sulfur scrubbed. Water cooled out. Compressor inhales. Steady. A genset turns that breath into light. Heat loops back to keep the tanks warm. Watts flow to the microgrid. Flame kept inside iron. Noise kept behind walls. Outside, a quiet plume marks the work. A controlled flare nods in the corner. Blue, short, disciplined. Only when the grid can't take more. Only when safety asks. Wells on old waste pull a different breath. Headers stitch the hill together. Vacuum draws gas through decades of decisions. What once leaked now feeds a line. Upgrading polishes it to pipeline clear. RNG into boilers, RNG into buses, RNG into burners. On the ground, windrows rise like low hills. Browns, greens, turners lift and fold. Steam feathers in cool air, moisture right, oxygen even. Time doing what time does, weeks pass. Smell shifts from sharp to soil. Screens catch what hands missed. Glass glints, a stray fork, a bag that should have been a bin. Finished compost, dark as coffee. Back to beds, medians, roofs with herbs and shade. Control panels glow in the half-light. Numbers drift, stable. pH, temperature, methane percent. Trending lines slope like calm tides. Alarms sleep. Operators listen more than talk. The process speaks in hums and valves, in slow pains of data. Brown bins teach the stream to split. Caddies under sinks make it easy. Less plastic in the pulp, less grit in the pump. Odors kept by biofilters. Wood chips breathing for us. Engines thrum, then settle. Heat finds district loops. Power to elevators, power to fridges, power to screens. Nutrients circle back in water. Nutrients circle back in crumb. Landfills exhale less. Skies clear a fraction. Small fractions add. Sun rises higher over the domes. Condensate ticks into a pan. A flare blinks off. The windrows rest. The city eats. The city returns the favor. Fuel from leftovers. Warmth from peel and stem. The belt keeps moving. The breath too. Ramps glow at first light. Ramps glow at first light. Ramps glow at first light. Depots hum. Chargers blink green like patient stars. Chargers blink green like patient stars. The same watts that left the domes. Return as quiet miles. Pantographs rise. Touch. Release. Batteries settle into day. Tracks wake under trains. Steel sings soft. Regeneration pushes current back. Substations exhale. Steady. A metro slides in. Doors breathe open. 3 tones, then close. Trams take their lanes. Grass between rails. Wheels on silk. Cameras catch the calm. Smooth tracking along a platform edge. Faces without rush. Riders board in a single tide. All doors. No clatter. Just air and motion. Streets redraw themselves. One less car lane. Becomes a bus spine. Signals lean toward transit. Green held a beat longer. Headways not guessed but kept. Schedules drift into muscle memory. Bikes claim a ribbon of the city. Protected. Continuous. Legible. Corners soften. Crossings lift. Pedestrians go first without saying so. Feet rule the hour. E-bikes level hills. Cargo bikes carry what vans once did. Deliveries arrive with a whir, not a cough. Scooters wait in neat corrals, not the curb cut. Sidewalks breathe again. At noon, a tram glides past glass. Reflections fold the city into itself. At dusk, rain polishes the asphalt. Red flicker in the wet, long and thin. White flicker in the wet, long and thin. Blue flicker in the wet, long and thin. Night makes tracks of light, fare capping. Tap once, go. Transfers knit modes. Wayfinding speaks in arrows. Calm verbs. The map shrinks to minutes, not miles. When wires thin, a few buses sip a different breath. RNG from old hills, cleaned and quiet. Backup. Bridge fuel. Most roll on electrons now. Less roar, more room for voices. Curbs stop being storage. Parklets grow shade and seats. A tree trades heat for quiet. A bench trades speed for time. Private cars become guests, not hosts. The street changes posture. The city's pulse moves in shared beats. Rail, rubber, shoe, spoke. The belt keeps moving. The breath, too. Container cranes at dusk hold still like metronomes. Booms hang. Lamps bead the water. A ship slides in on inertia and tide. Lines land. Hawsers tighten. Then, silence by design. Shore power takes the load. Cables lower like soft rigging. Connect. Click. The deck's hum becomes a steady 60 hertz breath. Stacks stop breathing smoke. Fans slow. Lights stay on. The city exhales. Slow harbor pans. Yard tractors whisper between stacks. Straddle carriers lift without a snarl. Rubber smells less like heat, more like motion. Chargers glow under gantries. Green eyes in the dusk. A queue shrinks at the gate. Appointments keep time. Slots, not guesses. The yard moves like a score. Electric drayage rolls out, heavy but light-footed. Class 8s glide past murals and warehouses. Torquay arrives without announcement. Hill ramp merge, no rise in voice. Megawatt plugs wait at the break rooms at lunch at midnight. Batteries take what the grid can spare when it can spare it. Schedules bend to electrons and tide tables. Rail takes the long pull. Intermodal yards stitch steel to steel. Boxes step from ship to chassis to well car. Couplers kiss. Distributed power breathes through a mile of train. Regeneration feeds back on the downgrades. Yard switchers go battery. No idle, no haze. Steel sings, low and even. Optimization hides in the quiet. Telematics trim detours. Backhauls find each other. Load stacks smarter, higher, fewer trips. Dispatch speaks in windows, not weights. A corridor cleans itself by habit. From berth to warehouse, a ribbon of zero. Port streets, arterials, inland port. Signs reflect it. Enforcement just nods. Compliance becomes choreography. Long exposures paint it true. Red threads thin. White threads thin. Blues from chargers pool under trailers. Cranes move like second hands. The harbor becomes a metronome of light, slow, and exact. At low tide, the stacks rest in silhouette. At high tide, reflections double the cranes. The freight still moves. The breath is quieter. The corridor holds its line. Aisles breathe in lines of light. Shallow focus. LEDs bloom. Faces never show. Fans don't roar. They sip. Close fan blades and airflow sensor. Power is counted here to the decimal. PUE, not a boast, a boundary. Power meter with decimals. Megawatts become manners. Pipes thread the floor, the ceiling. Blue for supply, red for return. Cold plates sit on silicon like quiet hands. Manifolds murmur. Dielectric baths hold boards like libraries hold books. Spines in, titles low. Pumps trade RPM for silence. Heat lifts and leaves on purpose. Outside, a campus lies flat to the land. Aerial at dawn, rectangles and radiators. Rectangles and sky. Sighting bends to weather and wires. Next to wind that overnights. Dams that never hurry. Solar that peaks at lunch. Batchwork follows the breeze. Caches chase the sun. Curtailment becomes a schedule, not a spill. Waste heat doesn't vanish, it earns. Glycol runs to a greenhouse, glycol to a rink, glycol to a district line that feeds showers and sinks. Winter fog turns to steam at a substation fence, clean, planned, metered. Summer flips the loop, absorption takes what compute gives. Night grids hum like a long note, substations glow, steady as a pulse. The load shapes itself, jobs queue for off-peak, inference waits for emptier wires. UPS stacks idle at 98% ready. UPS lets the grid breathe when it's tight. Edge arrives quiet and small. A rack under a tower base. A pod by a curb. A closet in a warehouse. A box in a bus depot. Traffic lights that see. Chargers that pace. Sensors that don't send what they don't need. Backhaul thins. The city thinks closer to where it feels. Cameras drift the aisle again. Heat maps cool from orange to green. Condensers tick in the distance, soft even. Inside the cage, a single status LED blinks like a lighthouse in miniature. The work keeps moving. The sound is a whisper in tune with the grid. The city takes the exhale and sends back a warm hand. Cranes turn through a low sun. A flare rides the boom. Cables rise without hurry. Steel floats, then pauses, then lands. Design starts at the end. Bolts, not welds. Pins, not glue. Plates that back out with a single tool. Joints that remember how to let go. Labels tucked where hands will find them later. Close on timber. Grain like topography. Cross-laminated planes meet glulam ribs. Dry connections. Dovetails notched, tightened. A wrench stops at a felt click. No splinters. No filler. Wood that stores a century of weather, ready to store another. Concrete but quieter. Slag calcined clays, careful water. Carbon-cured blocks set in a dawn mist. Fewer emissions on the pour. Fewer regrets in the ledger. Formwork pulled, kept, used again. Shells don't get erased, they get scanned. LiDAR sweeps a warehouse nave. Point clouds bloom in grayscale. The plan wraps what already stands. Adaptive reuse, not a slogan, a schedule. Windows shift, but walls stay. Roof trusses learn a new load. The future moves in without eviction. Passports follow every piece. A tag under a flange. A QR in a beam's end grain. Serial source chemistry dates. A ledger that lives in the network the racks support. The city's memory in materials, not just maps. When it's time to change, the building knows itself. Cranes blink. The sun slips along a cable. A panel lifts, lands onto gasket. Clicks. Methodical cuts on what leaves. Sawdust captured, neatly bagged. Bolts laid in trays by size and shine. No wrecking, only unwinding. Heat from compute crosses the sight line. Curing tents sip it in winter. A slab sets on warmth that would have drifted to sky. Loops pre-laid in floors feed tomorrow's tenants. District lines wait at the curb, threaded and labeled. Inside, sensors count, but they don't gossip. Moisture strain temperature. Backhaul stays lean. The passport updates when it must. The rest is quiet. The frame stands. Light moves through it like water. Nothing here is glued to forever. It's all meant to go again. The city keeps its balance by knowing how to take itself apart and how to begin again, gently. Canopy first. An aerial hush at dawn. The city exhaling through leaves. A quilt of crowns stitched across blocks, threads of green pulling neighborhoods closer. Birds test the morning with a single note, then another. Slow. Under the branches, light filters in coins. Air cools by touch, water lifted from leaf to sky. Heat maps fade where shade holds. Cooling islands, pocket parks, schoolyards, transit stops with treetops, strung like beads so no walk is a furnace. A bench in a small shadow becomes a refuge. Pulse rates drop. So does the day's demand for watts. Close on a leaf, stomata opening like quiet doors. Particles caught, air sifted. Fewer wheezes on playgrounds. Blood pressure easing on lunch breaks. The medicine is ordinary, chlorophyll, time, a place to sit. Rain arrives in a soft percussion. It finds what we made to welcome it. Wetlands tucked between warehouses and water, reed and rush arranging the flow. Basins that breathe, not bowls that break. Storms spread their temper over soil and root into gravels that remember last winter's swell. Streets tilt to meet bioswales. Curb cuts guide the first flush to green spines. Floods slow down. Basements stay stories, not sumps. Corridors weave for the small travelers. Nectar lanes along rail rights, medians, rooftops, window boxes. Milkweed where a fence used to glare. A bee lifts with its saddlebags full. A monarch stitches across an avenue. A hummingbird writes cursive in the air. Bridges for wings and legs, not just wheels. Nightlights shielded so stars still get their say. The breeze takes a turn down a narrow street planted thick. Pavement doesn't argue, it gives back space. Roots find room in structural soils under grates that don't choke. Tree rings widen. A young canopy learns the city's weather. Locally native, drought-wise, salt-sensible. Diversity as insurance. Redundancy as mercy. Health gathers where green gathers. Cortisol quiets under a sycamore. Recovery times shorten near a pond. Laughter travels farther in cooler air. The walk to the bus becomes a habit, not a hazard. The grid breathes easier at 4 p.m. because Maples worked since noon. Maintenance is a kind of care, not a cut. Apprentices prune with hands that know season and angle. Mulch circles hold rain. Sensors listen, not gossip, only moisture and stress. Inventories keep names, ages, species spread. Equity drives the planting map. Red lines erased with green shade, first trees where heat hit hardest. Wetland edges shift with the years. That's the design. Sedges move their line. Birds change the chorus. The city learns to step with it. Boardwalks that lift. Paths that curve to let a willow drink. No fight, a partnership. Macro again, a drop on a leaf's rim, lensing the skyline upside down. The whole city tucked in a bead of water. It falls, joins a quiet root, and is gone into wood. By afternoon the islands hold. Concrete nearby aches less. Trunks mark patient time. The grid hums softer. Windows open. A distant playground adds a beat. And at dusk, when the cranes blink, the canopy answers with 1,000 small movements. The living roofline breathes back into the street. Nature is not a guest here. It is the other half of the plan. Forests, threaded wetlands, working corridors stitched. Resilience you can walk under, listen to, and leave better by passing through. The city keeps its balance by remembering it is also a garden. Slow. Breathe. Continue. The question beneath every plan. Who gets the shade? Who gets the savings? Who gets the quiet? We walk block by block and answer with maps that remember history heat. Asthma red lines then start where the hurt was deepest. A calm street in morning light. A bus shelter with a roof of leaves. A bench that isn't broken. A timetable that speaks in more than one language. Curb ramps. Smooth crosswalks, bold. The first cool breezes arrive on the hottest routes. Affordability is not a footnote. It's the frame. Lifeline rates keep lights on and fridges steady. Bills shrink when buildings are sealed and systems hum. Split incentives solved. Landlords help to upgrade, renters guaranteed the benefits. Heat pumps that don't raise rent. Solar that lowers it. Community shares in a microgrid, dividends paid as lower bills, not promises. A library opens late as a cooling room. Wi-Fi spills onto the steps. Fare caps mean the fourth ride is free. On the evening bus, faces from every block, not just the center. Access draws the map, wallets don't. A room of folding chairs, a circle, not a podium. Childcare in the next corner, dinner on a side table, translation headsets ready. Stipends for time. Elders telling flood stories, teens tracing bike lines, workers naming shift hours. Plans change in the listening. Jobs follow the lines we draw. Local hire for tree crews and heat pump techs. Apprenticeships that start in high school. Maintenance as dignity, not drudgery. Contracts unbundled so small shops can bid. Ownership that stays, co-ops, land trusts, long leases that hold families in place. Data is gathered with consent and returned as tools. Dashboards in plain words, sensors that serve the block that hosts them. Trust grows where transparency does. Night comes. Porch lights blink on across different roofs. A mother steps out. The air is cooler, the bill is lower, the bus is on time. Equity is not a lane, it's the street itself. Access is the door left open, the path kept level, the welcome made ordinary. Slow. Breathe. Continue. Council chambers in morning quiet. Nameplates, empty chairs, the echo of gavel wood. We write the rules that write the city. A wall of screens in a control room. Operators trace flows, power, water, buses. Steady hands on ordinary days, trained for the days that aren't. Reliability isn't a promise, it's a practice. Drills, checklists, mutual aid on paper and ready trucks at the edge of town. Planners bend over maps, boundaries overlap, so do responsibilities. Transit meets housing, meets health, meets public works. Calendars align. Data shared where it should be, guarded where it must. Consent remembered. Dashboards that show, audits that signal, minutes that matter. Archival documents under soft light, past charters, rate cases, old ordinances with red lines and new margins. Codes updated to the future. Heat pumps clear, panels allowed, reuse permitted. Permits that measure outcomes, not paperwork. Inspections that teach as they enforce. Utility boards in session. Lifeline rates set in the open. Rate design that keeps the grid upright and the bills predictable. Maintenance funded first, reserves kept full. Islanding tested, black start rehearsed. Procurement that buys what we value. Contracts unbundled so small firms can stand. Local hire, apprenticeship, uptime guarantees. Pay for performance, not just parts. Clear scopes, honest change orders. No shortcuts hiding in fine print. Region to region, hands shaken into compacts. Watersheds don't read city limits, neither do blackout maps. Interties planned, schedules synced, emergency numbers memorized. Freight, ports, and power sit at the same table before a storm, not after. A small office with an open door. Ombuds, translators, notice boards in many languages. Sunshine laws that shine. Regulatory sandboxes for careful trials. Sunsets for ideas that don't land. Pilots become policy when they prove. Pause when they don't. Elections turn, work continues. Institutions hold the thread. Stewardship is a shift that never ends, passed well from hand to hand. The camera lingers on a signed resolution, then on a breaker that stays closed. A pump that keeps its rhythm. A timetable that remains true. Trust is an institution too. Slow. Breathe. Continue. Quiet offices. Lamps on at dusk. A calculator's soft clicks. We fund the rules we wrote. Rate design first. Prices that tell the truth. Time that costs more when the grid strains. Less when it can breathe. Credits when you give back. Guardrails for lifeline use. Signals, not surprises. A prospectus under a paperweight. Green bonds inked clean. Use of proceeds spelled out. Roofs sealed. Lines buried. Heat pumps humming. Coupons modest. Maturities staggered. Trustees count. Auditors trace. Ratings watch. Voters read. Then sign. ESCOs at the table. Performance, not promises. Savings pledged. Meters prove. M&V in the fine print. Shared upside. Shared duty. Retrofit by retrofit. The note pays itself. Public-private partnerships carefully drawn. Who holds revenue risk? Who keeps the asset? Availability when it matters. Penalties when it slips. Concessions that fit decades, not headlines. Community benefits in the margin and in the budget. Incentives that aim, not spray. Rebates that close gaps. Credits that unlock first cost. On bill for those without capital. weatherization before wattage. Make the clean choice the easy payment. Life cycle costs open on a screen. CapEx, O&M, replacement cycles, residuals, fuel that isn't bought, a curve of avoided outages, a line for carbon-priced honest, discount rates that see our children. Construction draws, milestones met, photos attached, retainage held, then released, escrow steady, change orders earned, uptime guarantees kept with wrenches, not words, stacks of funds carefully layered, grants at the base, cheap debt above, thin equity last, reserves full, coverage ratios that let us sleep, no brittle finance for critical bones. Access is designed too. Underwriting that reads utility history, not just credit score. Translation at the help desk, small contractors paid on time, apprenticeships funded from the same line item as steel, skyline time lapse, cranes turning slow, the ledger balances with the weather, the city upgrades itself without breaking itself. We finance reliability like we practice it, quietly, repeatedly, in the open. The camera pauses on a signed bond certificate, then on a meter that spins slower, a balance due that fits. The lights stay on. Trust accrues, payment by payment. Continue. We shape the map, and the map shapes us. A plan set down in lines, then lived in footsteps. Pedestrian districts stitched together. Car light, people heavy. Mid-rise blocks, 4 to 8 stories. Enough neighbors for a corner store. Courtyard housing, quiet inside, lively at the edge. A gentle drone pulls back. Streets as rooms, trees as ceilings. Density where it serves. Transit where it's loved. Mixed use by default. Homes over shops, clinics over cafes. Ground floors awake, doors often, windows deep, shade generous. The 15-minute life, groceries, school, work, a park, no car required. We change the rules that fixed old habits, parking minimums lifted, space freed for homes and green, setbacks tuned to light, not emptiness, heights stepped to fit the street. Far that invites the missing middle, ADUs by right, backyards earning rent, families staying close, alleys, laneways, service without the street fight, codes that welcome what powers itself, rooftop solar by right, quiet batteries allowed indoors, quiet batteries allowed in courtyards, shared meters where a block forms a microgrid, clear interconnection, days, not months, fees published, queues transparent, solar on parapets, heat pumps on roofs, noise limits, yes, barriers to entry, no, reuse written into the ordinary, graywater loops in multifamily, laundry to landscape, showers to flush, rainwater in cisterns under courtyards, irrigation without a truck, purple pipe corridors mapped with the same care as fiber, district energy easements held through the block, future heat without future digging, streets rezoned as habitats for movement, not storage, curb space priced and purposed, deliveries, bikes, trees, buses, intersections tightened, crossings short, corners human, freight at the edge, quiet cores within, heritage kept working, adaptive reuse faster than teardown, permits that respect what stands, materials salvaged by ordinance, wood, brick, fixtures given second lives, form-based codes draw outcomes, not loopholes, performance over boxes checked, sun in winter, shade in summer, air that moves, design review that asks, can a child get home safely? Can an elder rest in shade? Equity inside the parcel lines, inclusionary homes on site, not far away, corner lots for clinics, kitchens, childcare, vendors with permits, not tickets. The camera drifts above a mid-rise quarter, courtyards bright with trees, roofs bright with panels. On screen, a map of walking sheds overlaps a map of opportunity. Finance meets form. The things we funded now have a place to land. We legislate the easy choice, a neighborhood that runs on feet and photons, codes that say yes, clearly. The city edits itself, one gentle line at a time. Copenhagen. The camera glides along a quay. Bikes outnumber cars, wind at their backs. The finger plan, a city planned like a hand. Rails as bones, neighborhoods as knuckles. District heating hums beneath cobbles. Safe crossings and narrow lanes. Wide bike tracks that feel inevitable. What worked, continuity over decades. Space reallocated, pricing the curb. Winter made rideable with salt. Light, priority, limits. Flatness helps here. Tourism crowds the core. Housing costs follow success. Freight still wants the waterfront. Compromise is constant. Vancouver, a seawall ribbon, towers on podiums. Mountains like a covenant. SkyTrain, frequent, driverless, trusted. View cones hold back shadows. Laneway homes stitch gentle density behind. What worked? Transit before parking. Mixed use by default. Daycare and groceries in reach. Rain managed at the surface. Limits. High land values test inclusion. Seismic rules tighten forms. Condo logic can thin family space. The port's scale and bridges set hard edges. Freiburg. Trams bell through Vauban. Cars are guests. Children own the street. Solar on roofs. Cooperatives on deeds. A city utility that answers to its citizens. Blocks 4 to 6 floors. Stairs short, neighbors close. What worked? Buy land first. Plan with people. Price parking by the year, not the hour. Wood and brick reused as rule. Limits, smaller budgets. Slower build cycles. Heritage walls and narrow lanes that complicate pipes. Scale is human. Replication needs patience. Across them all, mid-rise where life is daily. Trams and bikes where trips are short. Water and heat looped like a second circulatory system. Policies that say yes, clearly, then stay the course. And the edges, climate, topography, wealth, politics draw different lines. We borrow the principles, not the postcard. The map edits gently, the city answers in kind. Night from above, grids flicker, then surge. A sea of windows, some dark by choice, some by outage. Ports burn with sodium light, trains braid through high-rise canyons. A metro platform breathes, then empties, then fills again. Mumbai, Lagos, Jakarta, names like tides. Density is fact, not style. Elevators make vertical neighborhoods. Alleys are supply chains. Heat presses from all sides. Water arrives in shifts. Power is reliable until it isn't. What works? Pilots with a purpose. Microgrids around hospitals, microgrids around markets, islands that stay on when the city blinks. Cool roofs rolled out block by block. Pale paint and shade trees mapped to heat risk, not headlines. Leak hunts that find the unaccounted half of water and give it back without a new dam. Pressure zones rebuilt at night, valves numbered like addresses. District cooling where towers cluster, one plant, many lungs. Bus rapid transit and freeway medians that carry a metro's load at a fraction of the cost, then feed the real metro when it arrives. Limits, rooftops crowded with tanks, antennas, solar shaded by taller neighbors. Diesel generators hum in basements, a private grid stacked under the public one. Groundwater salted by the sea, floods when storms stall over paved watersheds. Informal pipes, formal bills. Agencies that share a skyline but not a ledger. Scaling, prove it on one corridor, copy it 10 times. Vendor-agnostic standards so the 10th system talks to the first. Tariffs that reward off-peak, prepaid where cash is daily. Cooling districts written into building permits. Heat action plans that close schools before noon and open clinics all night. Water reuse plants tucked under flyovers, sending purple pipes to industry first, homes next. Ports, acreage of cranes and cold storage. Shore power for ships. Electric yard tractors. Appointment systems that turn queues into calendars. Freight spines electrified. Depots with overhead chargers where buses sleep. Data centers. Quiet boxes at the edge, drinking power, exhaling heat. Tie their waste heat into cooling loops, shift compute to nights when wind is strong and air is kinder. Governance, one city, many governments. Delivery units that cut through, bound to metrics, not slogans. Finance that blends, sovereign city concessional fare box braided like cables in a trunk line. Across them all, start where stakes are highest, hospitals, depots, pump stations, schools. Design for the outage, then retire the generator. Measure, publish, adjust. Pilot without apology, scale without ceremony. In megacities, the map edits loudly. The city still answers, block by block, line by line, light by returning light. Idle cranes, idle budgets. A site wrapped in mesh, nothing moving but the tarp. Cost lines creep, calendars, slip change orders breeding in the margins, currency swings turning steel into speculation. Savings promised in headlines, paid in interest. Lights stutter, efficiency wins meet rebound. Cooler rooms invite longer hours, cheap rides fill the road again. Water made cheaper flows, longer lawns appear where dust once held. We save per unit, then buy more units. Maintenance is a verb, not a ribbon. A pump needs seals, a chiller needs tubes, brushed a sensor needs cleaning more than calibrations. When the parts are proprietary, the city waits on a ship when the staff rotates. The manuals gather dust. Performance decays quietly. Trust decays loudly. Trade-offs everywhere. Resilience wants redundancy. Accountants want utilization. Central plants are elegant and brittle. Distributed kits are scrappy. And many speed cuts through meetings consent slows and strengthens. Open standards invite vendors, tight lock-ins promise warranties and later regrets. Rain writes the audit. Streets shine, a manhole breathes, a trench becomes a river. Flood maps were right, schedules weren't. A station built for a 100-year storm meets a 10-year storm every other summer. We rebuild thresholds an inch at a time. Social pushback has reasons. Tariffs rise to pay for tomorrow, wallets live in today. A bus lane steals a stall, a vendor loses daylight, a tree becomes a line item and a memory. Cameras help dispatch and watch people. Some are safer, some are seen too much. Equity promised is equity measured, then argued, then adjusted. Data centers shift compute to night, the bill still lands by day. Shore power cleans the berth, the grid upstream burns elsewhere. Heat we capture warms pools. A clinic runs short on nurses. Every win carries a shadow. Every shadow can be mapped. Idle sites again. Workers sent home when funds freeze, remobilized at a premium. The cheapest bid becomes the most expensive lesson. O&M lines cut to make room for new starts. Yesterday's pilot limps to keep the lights on. So we plan for failure as a feature. Contracts that pay for uptime, not ribbon cuts. Spares in a closet, not a tender. Training baked into the build handover as a season, not a day. Tariffs that climb with service, stair-stepped and shielded for the fragile. Feedback loops as policy, measure, publish, adjust, repeat. Slow cutaways, spreadsheets with red cells, a valve tagged and dated, a complaint map with patterns you can trace. The city learns by bumping into itself. Not every corridor needs a masterpiece. Many need maintenance done on time. Trade-offs are the work. Choose openly, document the bet, cap the downside. Pilot small, fail cheap, scale only what survives the rain and the night. When lights flicker, systems should degrade gracefully. When budgets tighten, service should bend before it breaks. The promise remains, just quieter. Resilience is a practice. We keep score in hours of service, restored leaders, not lost degrees, not felt steps, not displaced. The city answers, not by pretending to be perfect, but by being repairable. Storms arrive the way rumors do. First a hush, then a chorus. Grids blink. Streets forget their edges. Heat presses like a hand that won't lift. Blackout is a test with no proctor. The big plant trips. The small ones decide. Islanding is a verb now. Microgrids seal their seams, drop the drawbridge, keep a circle of light alive. Clinics hum on rooftop solar. Clinics run on batteries. Fridges hold insulin. Elevators pause. Stair lights stay. A campus becomes an island. A block becomes a lantern. Neighbors learn the map of extension cords. Floods redraw authority. Water takes shortcuts through basements and archives. Valves close. Loops segment. Backup wells spin. Gravity does what pumps can't. Bladders fill in gymnasiums. Tanker schedules become lifelines, not headlines. Boil notices go out. SMS. Boil notices, radio. Boil notices, paper taped to doors. Caches of filters matter. Hose gaskets matter. The city drinks because someone counted grommets in spring. Heat waves stretch time. Shade is infrastructure. Night never gets the memo. Libraries open as cooling centers. Schools open as cooling centers. Faith halls open as cooling centers. Quiet, supervised, powered by islands. Buses turn into moving night air. Hydrants sprout misters. Algorithms step aside. Humans widen hours. Emergency comms earn their name. Mesh pops up when towers don't. Handhelds bridge departments. Sirens lose nuance. Text gains it. Dashboards go dim. Whiteboards take the shift. Checklists beat charisma. We say the same thing in 3 ways, slowly. Degradation, then grace. Non-critical loads shed politely. Freezers before signage. Comfort before spectacle. Contracts pay for uptime. Crews have keys to the right closets. Fuel is a plan, not a hope. Spares aren't theoretical. And then, edges brighten, pumps cough, catch. Circuits resynchronize. One neighborhood at a time. Streets steam, clipboards fill. We count recovery in hours, not headlines. We thank the dull heroes, latches that held. Firmware that failed soft. Doors that stayed open. Sunrise finds what stayed standing and what needs learning. We log both. Resilience isn't louder than the storm, it's calmer after. The city remembers and rehearses. We have a decade, then another, then the arc. 2030 is close enough to count. We start with what's on the shelf. Audits first, LEDs everywhere. Thermostats learn manners. Gas retires room by room. Heat pumps in, boilers out. Roofs turn into watts. Parking lots become shade that pays. Leaky mains stop whispering. Acoustic crews, pressure zones, smart meters. Elevators get soft starts. Fridges get smarter than signage. Buses get lanes, then plugs. Signals talk and favor walkers. Compost is not a pilot. It's Tuesday. Bins, roots, biocells, done. Codes close loopholes. Public buys clean by default. Dashboards appear in corners, quiet legible. Metrics show their faces. 20% site energy per square foot. Plus 25% renewable on the meter. 15% peak at 5 p.m. Water loss below 10%. Waste diversion at 60%. Transit mode share nudges past 40%. SAIDI dips under 60 minutes. Energy burden under 4% for low-income homes. Trees plus 5% canopy in the hottest tracks. Time-lapse scaffolds bloom, retract. A day, a week, a season. 2035 is a hinge. We knit. Microgrids stop being islands. They become an archipelago. Peer-to-peer, market rules that reward quiet courage. District thermal loops braid under streets. Data centers exhale. Clinics and towers inhale. Heat is not wasted. It's routed. Water gets a second city, the purple grid. Reuse for cooling, irrigation, industry. Potable kept sacred. Freight goes to hubs at the edge. Quiet electric inside. Curbs are calendars, not hope. Ports hum on shore power. Cranes sip electrons. Diesel is for museums. Organics become a network. Biogas to peakers that rarely peak. Digestate to soils that hold rain. Materials get passports. Deconstruction overtakes demolition. Components remember their specs, not just their scars. Sensors talk less but mean more. Control rooms watch the orchestra, not each solo. Metrics tighten, 45% GHG below 2005, 80% of buildings heat pump ready, 70% of riders on zero-emission transit, peak shaved, 30%, reuse water at 25%, waste diversion at 80%, port NOx, 90%, reliability, 99.99%, heat mortality trending to zero, time lapse, trenches open, splice, close, Steam turns into warm water. Blueprints dissolve into occupancy. 2050 is the circle closing. Construction is subtraction first. Strip, sort, return. New comes from old with receipts. Supply is mostly sky and wind and seasons, firmed by storage that thinks in hours and days and contracts that think in winters. Loads flex on purpose. Prices nudge. Automation bows. People consent. Comfort beats spectacle. Streets are slow, green, porous. Rivers touch the city without fear. Food grows in roofs, edges, courtyards. 10% of plates local on purpose. Industry swaps feedstocks, recycled, bio-based, tracked. Waste is a word we retired. Recovery at 95%, the rest is design feedback. The ledger says what the air feels. Net zero achieved, not declared. Onward to net negative districts. Metrics hold steady and then surprise. 0.15 kg CO2e per kWh delivered. Embodied carbon, 150 kg CO2 per M2, new build. EUI halved across stock. Per capita water use, 35%. Median commute under 30 minutes door to door. Access within 15 minutes for clinics, groceries, cooling by foot or transit. Canopy at 30% citywide, 40% where heat once pressed hardest. Equity is not a footnote. It is the index. Disparities close. Benefits arrive first where harms did. Pacing stays slow. Construction to completion, cranes to keys. Overlays whisper. Targets hit. Gaps flagged. Plans revised. We rehearse, then perform, then improve. Milestones are not monuments. They are maintenance. The city remembers the storm. The plan learns from it. The curve bends because we kept counting and kept our promises. We began with a city as metabolism, flows in flows out feedbacks that learn. At twilight you can see it breathe. Windows exhale warmth to loops that carry it. Roofs sip dusk and store it. Streets slow the rain so soils can keep it. Producer, not just consumer. We make watts, not just spend them. We make cool heat, clean water, clean air. We make food on edges and roofs. Knowledge in classrooms, care in clinics, trust in meetings that end with next steps. The ledger is alive. Inputs chosen, outputs accounted, loops closed on purpose. Waste retired as a word, replaced by work with receipts. We are not an island. Our grids handshake across counties. Watersheds ignore borders. So do we. Ports, farms, forests, towns. One mesh. We trade surplus, share shortage, align clocks instead of colliding them. Airsheds don't ask for permission, neither should cooperation. Pragmatic optimism. Tools first, slogans last. Pilot, measure, scale, fix. We count because counting keeps promises honest. We plan for storms and plan for calm. We budget for maintenance like it's oxygen. People at the center. Benefits land first where harms did. Access within reach, comfort without guilt, work with dignity. The city that produces also protects. Night gathers. The skyline becomes a quiet circuit. Lights not as spectacle, but as signal systems humming, agreements holding. The river returns the favor with a reflection that doesn't hide the scaffolds, only softens them. We keep the pace. We keep the faith. Metabolism continues, steady, legible, shared. The arc bends because hands held it, together and long enough. Onward, with eyes open. End sting.